But then there's a story arc here of as money progresses, as the technology of money progresses, that is alongside the overall scaling of human civilization, correct?
Yeah, sure. And I think there's kind of two parallel avenues there of technological development. One is the underlying commodity unit of account itself, and then one is the records on how to maintain,
Mm-hmm.
lists of who owns what. And so when you look at the commodities themselves, things like shell beads or teeth or, grains, things like that, they would be early types of money. But then as societies go through more levels of industrialization, they get better at making more of these kind of lower tech types of money. And if you have industrialization, if you have metal tools, if you have hydrocarbons, you can harvest and make a lot more shell beads or things like that. And so you can dilute and devalue those that are in a less technology setting, still relying on those. And so when we think of money as an emergent phenomenon, it's like evolution in the sense that things are being tried either on purpose or accident. Things that stick are ones that someone holds this thing as money and no one else knows how to dilute that. If they pick the wrong thing as money, they get diluted because someone else says, "Well, I'm gonna go make more of that." Other people seem to like it, and so if we all have a shared delusion and we all pick paper clips as money, it only takes a couple people to realize that we're all idiots and they can just make a ton more paper clips and devalue us. Whereas if we pick gold as money, it's really really hard for other people to figure out how to just print more gold, just to make more gold. And so as human technology improved, we kind of moved up the scale of hardness from things like shells all the way up to gold. And there's it's a weird combination because the money has to be liquid, liquid, saleable, divisible, identifiable. So it's got to be common enough that everybody's seen it, people can access it, it's around, but you can't increase the supply significantly. So super rare things like meteorites or rhodium don't have the liquidity or divisibility to serve as money, even though they might be a good store of value or interesting collectible. Whereas something like gold and silver, they've met the characteristics where there's a lot of it in existence, but it's hard to increase the supply more at a fast rate. And so that's been one technological avenue of money. The other one is the ledgers that we use to record that. And so obviously in the early days, it would have been oral ledgers, within your own tribe. And then you had the development of writing, so clay tablets, parchment, things like that you could write down lists of transactions, lists of debts, lists of assets, and some sort of central authority, like in Babylon, the temple state, they could maintain this. And then over time, when we developed paper, when we developed the printing press, we got increasingly sophisticated technologies for writing down and then transferring information. Obviously, now we have the digital age, and with all these things came better and better ways to keep track of who owns assets. And one thing I argue in the book is that the invention of the telegraph, which ushered in the telecommunication era, really kind of broke that old commodity trend because up until then, the harder and harder commodities kept winning until you got to gold, meaning that basically the commodity with the highest stock to flow ratio, which is different than the stock to flow price model. It's a ratio of how much of that commodity exists compared to how much can be made more in a year. But with the invention of the telegraph, we could now exchange information globally very quickly, and by exchanging information, you can exchange transactions, which is a fairly low bandwidth thing to do. But we couldn't settle physical gold that quickly. You had to transport it, verify it, which can be hard to do. And so that actually introduced speed as a new variable, which was not a key variable before. And that's a key reason why these centralized fiat currency ledgers have been able to overtake gold in the modern era, because even though they're a step down from gold in terms of scarcity, they solve a lot of problems that gold was not solving in that telegraph era. So gold has not been strong enough to kind of assert itself, and nation states have been more powerful at defining their ledger, and kind of even in international sense. The United States, for example, there's 160 different fiat currencies in the world. They all have little or no acceptance outside of their own country, kind of a monopoly status in their own country. And then the global reserve currency, either the British pound or now the US dollar, serves as like the global ledger that ties them together. Because otherwise, you'd ironically have barter on an international scale. Imagine if you had Thai currency and Canadian currency and Indonesian currency and Japanese currency, and they were all trying to trade with each other. People would end up with this assortment of different monies and try to figure out who wants it and who doesn't want it. And, you're worried about this one devaluing too quickly, whereas this one seems kind of strong. Instead, money tends to have a network effect of liquidity and acceptance. And so that gravitates towards whatever currency is big and relatively stable, has economic scale, military scale, kind of global recognition, which is the world reserve currency that kind of serves as the super commodity among currencies that serves as like the one side of either all transactions or most transactions to help, make global trade more efficient.
But the world is getting smaller. And what happens? I guess what's the history of society meets society monetary fights. So if I'm a society that's using shells, and then I come up against a society that is using some more advanced technology, at least on the medium side, what happens to my money in that type of an arrangement? And do you have any historical examples here?
Yeah, so generally what happens is that the society with less technology finds their money diluted. It's obviously not surprising that in the history of cultures meeting each other, ones with lesser technology tend to have a bad time, not just in money, but in multiple warfare, all sorts of things, various types of exploitation, colonization, that sort of stuff. But money is one of the avenues, because if the one side doesn't realize how easy their money is to create by the other side, then they can get tricked into trading very valuable resources for something that the other side can make easy. And so, for example, when people came to North America and found that they were using shells as they perceive shells as valuable, they could use metal tools and other things to make a lot more shells. And be able to purchase things. When people went to the Isle of Yap and saw that they were using these special limestone rings, these stone circles as money, which for them were very hard to make because they had to go to another island to get the limestone and bring it back, and it was a very challenging thing to do. And with modern technology, we could just make like way more and devalue them. When Europeans went to West Africa and saw that they liked beads as money, in particular, they would have a lot of glass beads, which had trickled down through various trade routes. And glass was not hard for Europeans to make, but it was hard for West Africans to make. And so when that was realized, that was used as a way to exploit them. And so in general, that's, we can imagine a world without money, and it's a world filled with frictions, right? Where simple things become a lot harder. And that's why humans are problem solvers. Whenever they encounter frictions, they want to figure out how to reduce those frictions. And so, like you said, even in prison or war camps, things like cigarettes will develop as money because it's an emergent phenomenon. And when different emergent phenomenon kind of come together, it comes down to which one's better, which side can dilute the other one, whereas the reverse is not true. So generally the reason that gold and silver became money everywhere is because whenever gold and silver collided with another money, the people who have gold and silver's money can make more of that other money, but those other people can't make more gold and silver at scale.
They're like apex predators. They just dominate all the other monies.
They're the lions of the community. And so even the people who use gold and silver's money can't quickly make more gold and silver. And so at least up until the telecommunication age, you increase this kind of hardness scale as you ran into as the whole world kind of found each other. We kind of found that gold was the super commodity that had the lowest rate of ongoing supply increases while being liquid, saleable, easy to verify, at least relatively speaking. And so that's why that kind of won out on the global scale.
It's still kind of amazing with all of our incredible 21st century technology. I mean, gold is still, like, we can't replicate it, for lower than the cost of mining it, which is it's held up very well.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, compared to diamonds, like diamonds are just carbon, and so we can kind of figure that out and make way cheaper diamonds. Whereas gold, being an element, one that's like born from stars, that's a very challenging thing to do. Maybe one day we go mine the asteroids. I can imagine how expensive and challenging that's going to be. Maybe we go find deep sea deposits or something, but it's a very challenging thing to do. And even in the 1970s, when gold went up an order of magnitude in price, if you look at the percent annual supply growth, you'd barely recognize that there was any change. It's not like we started radically increasing our gold mining, at least on a percentage basis, because it's actually it's fundamentally hard to do almost at any price. It takes time for new techniques to kind of keep up with that. And there's like an ongoing difficulty adjustment because, people have been mining gold for thousands of years. And so they've already gotten a lot of the easy surface deposits. And so now with all of our modern technology, we're kind of stuck with the deeper deposits. And so even as our technology gets better, some, the low hanging fruit's already picked. And so it's like this ongoing difficulty adjustment. That's why gold's been such a reliable store of value for so long.
Nature's difficulty adjustment is so hilarious. That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what's going on.